In the deafening roar of World War II, amidst the smoke and the chaos, most soldiers clutched their rifles, their sights set on survival and victory. But one soldier, Private Thomas Weller, held something else just as tightly, a small, leather-bound diary. But this wasn't a diary of his own fears or longings for home. This was something entirely different, something that would redefine the very meaning of a soldier's duty. Thomas didn't just fight, he observed. He didn't just see enemies, he saw people. And in the quiet moments between battles, when the world held its breath, he would open his diary and write. Not about tactics or troop movements, but about the faces on the other side of the battlefield. Let's dive into his story. Imagine a young man, barely out of his teens, thrust into the brutal reality of war. The training is relentless, designed to dehumanize the enemy, to turn them into mere targets. It's us or them, the sergeants would bark. For most, this became the grim truth. But for Thomas, it wasn't that simple. He couldn't shake the questions that haunted him. Who were they? What lives had they left behind? His first entry is telling. It was after a skirmish in the French countryside. A young German soldier, no older than himself, lay in the mud. In the soldier's pocket, Thomas found a worn photograph of a woman and a small child. A dog-eared letter tucked behind it. While others moved on, Thomas was frozen by this intimate glimpse into a life abruptly ended. That night, by the dim light of a lantern, he didn't just note the soldier's rank or division. He wrote, Klaus. He had a wife named Lena and a daughter, Anna. His letter spoke of a leaky roof he promised to fix when he got home. This act became a secret ritual. Thomas became a collector of stories, a silent archivist of lost lives. He learned to look for the small details that others overlooked. A name stitched into a uniform collar, a faded drawing tucked into a boot, a half-finished letter home. Each discovery was a breadcrumb leading back to a life, a family, a dream. He would sketch faces from memory, capturing the ghost of a smile or the worry in their eyes. His diary wasn't filled with the statistics of war, but with the poetry of humanity. He described a soldier named Friedrich, who carried a small book of poetry by Rilke, its pages filled with his own notes in the margins. Another, Hans, had a lucky charmer, small, carved wooden bird. Thomas imagined him as a boy, running through a forest, his father teaching him how to whittle. These weren't monsters. They were carpenters, farmers, students, and sons, just like the men in his own platoon. They were caught in the same terrifying machine, just on the other side of the gears. Of course, this secret was a heavy burden. How do you reconcile this profound empathy with the act of pulling a trigger? This is the core of Thomas's struggle. His diary entries reveal a man walking a tightrope over a chasm of moral conflict. He writes, "Today I saw a boy with eyes the color of the sky back home. An hour later I had to shoot at a man who might have been his father." How does a man hold both of these truths in his heart? How do you fight an enemy you have given a name and a face? His actions weren't a rejection of his duty. Thomas was a brave soldier who fought for his country and protected his brothers in arms. But his diary was his personal act of rebellion, not against his army, but against the dehumanizing nature of war itself. It was his way of holding on to his own soul, of refusing to let the conflict strip away his ability to see the humanity in others. He understood that while war demanded he be a soldier, it didn't have to destroy the man he was. This practice also had an unexpected effect. It made him a better, more observant soldier. By studying the small, personal effects of the enemy, he began to understand their morale, their conditions, and their hopes. He could sense their desperation or their resolve in the things they carried. It gave him a unique perspective that, in some ways, was more valuable than any battlefield map. His comrades didn't understand. A few who caught glimpses of his diary thought he was strange, perhaps even morbid. "Why would you want to remember them?" one asked. Thomas simply replied, "Because someone should." He believed that forgetting them was a second death, an erasure of their existence that was, in its own way, as violent as the bullet that struck them down. To remember them was to acknowledge that a life, full of its own complexities and love, had been lost. It was an act of profound respect in a world defined by disrespect. As the war dragged on, his diary became thicker, its pages filled with names, sketches, and stories. It was a mosaic of the enemy's humanity. He wrote about their songs, the food they ate, the letters they wrote. He noted their youth, their weariness, their fear. He was painting a portrait not of an army, but of individuals. In doing so, he was preserving a truth that war tries so desperately to extinguish, that on any side of any conflict, we are all fundamentally human. After the war, Thomas returned home, a changed man. He rarely spoke of the battles he fought, but he kept the diary. It wasn't a trophy or a grim souvenir. It was a testament to the lives that had intersected with his in the most violent way imaginable. It was a reminder that the cost of war isn't measured in territory gained or lost, but in the individual stories that are cut short. In his later years, Thomas worked with organizations dedicated to reconciliation and peace. He used his experiences not to glorify war, but to teach its true cost. He argued that the first step to preventing future conflicts was to see the enemy not as a faceless mob, but as individuals with names, families, and dreams, just like our own. His diary, once a private act of defiance, became a powerful tool for education. The story of Thomas Weller isn't about grand heroism on the battlefield. There are no medals for empathy. His heroism was quieter, more profound. It was the courage to maintain his humanity in the face of inhumanity. It was the simple, radical act of writing down a name, of remembering a face, of honoring a life that he was forced to oppose. He reminds us that even in the darkest of times, a single person can choose to light a candle of remembrance, defying the overwhelming darkness. His story challenges us to look beyond the uniforms, the flags, and the ideologies, and to find the shared humanity that connects us all. Thank you so much for joining us on this emotional journey today. If Thomas's story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories that explore the human side of history. Let us know in the comments what you think about his unique form of remembrance. We'll see you in the next video.